I knew something was wrong the second I stepped out of the building. You know how your stomach drops before your brain even catches up? That was me frozen, mid-stride, staring at an empty parking spot where my car should have been. My 2021 Camry. The car I had just finished paying off. The only big thing I had ever bought for myself. Gone. Just gone. I stood there blinking, waiting for reality to rearrange itself, but the space stayed empty. No misplaced lighting. No confusion. No mistake. Someone had taken my car. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. At first, I told myself to breathe, to think logically. Maybe it had been towed. Maybe I locked it wrong. Maybe somehow this wasn't as bad as it looked. I called the towing company. No Camry registered to your plate today, the woman said calmly. Are you sure you parked here? I was sure. I had parked in the same spot every day for 3 years. Next came the panic, the real kind. The kind that makes your chest feel too tight and your thoughts scatter like dropped marbles. I clutched my phone a little too hard and dialed the only people who might have an answer. My parents. Mom, I breathed when she picked up. My car is gone. I think someone stole it. There was a pause. A long, suspicious pause. Then, in her most casual, breezy voice, she said, "Oh honey, relax. We gave it to Felix." I pressed the phone to my ear, sure I'd misheard. You what? We gave it to Felix, she repeated. He needed it more. Needed my car more than I did. I felt my knees go weak. Mom, what are you talking about? That car is mine. You can't just. She sighed loudly, like I was the unreasonable one. Myral, you're overreacting. Felix's car broke down again. He had no way to get to work. You live closer to your job, so you don't need it as much. I don't need. My voice cracked. Mom, that car took me 4 years to pay off. You can't give away something that's not yours. Oh please, she snapped. Don't be dramatic. You know Felix is going through a lot. He deserves a break. Felix. Their golden child. Their miracle son. The young man who had totaled 3 cars in 5 years because the roads were slippery, the sun was in his eyes, the brakes felt weird, or whatever ridiculous excuse he rattled off each time. My whole life, everything revolved around him. His needs, his messes, his mistakes. And every time he ruined something, my parents swooped in with excuses and gifts, while I quietly worked overtime and paid my own bills because you're the responsible one. I swallowed hard. Mom, you can't just take my car. Before I could finish, I heard Felix's voice in the background, laughing. Tell her thanks for the upgrade. Upgrade. He'd called the car his upgrade. My father's voice chimed in next. Myral, stop making this complicated. Family helps family. Be grateful you can walk to work if you have to. Be grateful. Be grateful. For losing the one thing I bought for myself? Something snapped inside me. It wasn't loud or dramatic, it was quiet. Clean. A switch flipping. I'm hanging up now, I said. My mother scoffed. Don't you dare make a scene. Felix needs the car more. I ended the call. And for a moment, the world felt completely still. My breaths came in slow, shaking pulls. My hands shook, not from fear, but from something colder. Something sharper. Something I hadn't felt in years. I'd spent my whole life giving, fixing, compromising, swallowing unfairness because I didn't want to be labeled difficult. But this was theft. This was disrespect. This was betrayal. I stared down at my phone as if it could tell me what to do. Then I heard my mother's voice in my mind again. Relax. We gave it to Felix. He needs it more. And I knew exactly what I needed to do. My thumb hovered only a second before I pressed the numbers. 911. The operator answered promptly. 911, what's your emergency? I steadied my breathing. My voice was calm. Too calm. I'd like to report a stolen vehicle. There was typing on the other end. What's the make and model? A 2021 Toyota Camry, I said. Metallic gray. Plate number. I gave every detail without hesitation. The operator paused. And who took the vehicle, ma'am? I swallowed. Saying it out loud made the betrayal feel real. My brother, I said. Felix. He took it with my parents' help. I did not give permission. The car is legally in my name. More typing. More clicking. More silence. Finally, the operator spoke. Understood. Officers will contact you shortly. And ma'am, just to confirm, you are reporting this as a theft. I looked out at the empty parking space one last time, the space where my pride, my security, my hard work used to sit. Yes, I said firmly. I am. The operator's voice shifted more serious. Then we'll proceed accordingly. As I hung up, my phone buzzed again. Mom, Dad, Felix. A swarm of missed calls and incoming alerts. But I didn't answer. Not this time. Instead, I stared at that empty spot and felt strangely, powerfully like this was the first real stand I'd ever taken in my life. Then my phone rang again. This time from an unknown number. The police. I inhaled slowly and accepted the call. Ms. Myrell, the officer said, we've reviewed your report. We'll need some further information. Can you talk right now? I opened my mouth to reply, and everything in my world shifted. The officer's tone was steady, professional, nothing like the frantic storm rising in my chest. Yes, I can talk, I said, leaning against the brick wall outside my workplace. Good, he replied. We've already contacted dispatch. Before we take the next steps, I need you to confirm again, did you give anyone family or otherwise permission to use the vehicle today? No, I said. Not verbally, not in writing, not ever. He exhaled in a way that told me everything. This wasn't a family matter. This was a crime. All right, Ms. Myrell. We're treating this as an unauthorized taking. I'll need you to come to the station later to sign formal statements. I'll be there. When I hung up, reality hit me fully. Not in a slow, sinking way but like cold water thrown straight into the soul. My parents didn't just overstep. They didn't just disrespect me. They involved themselves in a literal theft and thought I'd swallow it quietly like every other time. I was still trying to steady my breathing when my phone started buzzing again. This time, it wasn't my parents. It was Felix. The irony almost made me laugh. I let it ring twice before answering. What did you do? He roared the moment the line connected. The cops just called me. Why are you playing stupid games with my car? I closed my eyes. Felix, it's not your car. His voice cracked with fury. Mom and Dad said it was fine. Mom and Dad don't own my property. You're unbelievable, he spat. You always think you're better than everyone. Always acting like some saint because you pay your bills on time. Grow up, Myrell. This is family. I bit down on my cheek to keep myself steady. Family doesn't steal. It wasn't stealing, he shouted. I needed it. And you totaled 3 cars in 5 years. How many did you need then? He went silent. But only for a moment. You're ruining my life, he hissed. You're ruining everything. You did that on your own, I said. He hung up on me hard. For a moment, I just stared at my dimming screen. My hands weren't shaking anymore. The anger wasn't consuming me. What surprised me most was the clarity. For the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel like prey. I walked back inside my workplace, got my things, and requested the rest of the day off. My manager, who'd always been kind, didn't hesitate. Take the time you need, Myrell. And if you need witnesses, we have cameras. That sentence alone steadied a part of me that had felt uprooted. Hours later, I drove to the police station ironically in my coworker's car because mine wasn't just gone, it was somewhere with Felix learning how to destroy another vehicle. Inside the station, the detective went through everything carefully. Your report is valid, he said. Especially since the vehicle is solely registered in your name. He showed me a printout. My name was there clean, official, undisputed. Do you know where the car might be? He asked. No, I said. My parents didn't ask me before they took it. Felix hasn't told me where he is. The detective nodded and jotted something down. We've issued a location alert. If the car passes any toll booth or traffic cam, we'll know. I felt a knot loosen in my chest, but only slightly, because just as the detective closed his folder, my phone began vibrating non-stop. Mom calling, then Dad, then both, back to back. I ignored it until a text came through. Myrell, answer the phone right now. This is serious. Against my better judgment, I stepped outside and called them back. My father answered immediately, shouting, What did you do? The police are looking for your brother. Do you have any idea what kind of trouble you're causing? My jaw tightened. I didn't cause anything. You all did when you took something that wasn't yours. Oh, stop it, my mother snapped in the background. You're being selfish. Felix is panicking. He said he only drove it to help us out. Why would you drag the authorities into this? Because you took my car, I said coldly. I have to go to work. I have to live. I need my vehicle to function. You had no right. My mother cut me off. Felix needed it more. You're single. You don't have kids. You don't need a nice car. The breath left my lungs. There it was. The truth they'd danced around for years. In their world, Felix deserved everything. I deserved leftovers if that. I'm not doing this, I said quietly. You had no right. This isn't a discussion. My father's voice dropped dangerously low. If you don't drop that police report, don't bother coming home for holidays. Don't ask us for help. Don't expect anything. I laughed, softly, almost sadly. I haven't expected anything from you in a long time. I hung up before either of them could respond. Later that evening, I was home, sitting on my couch, scrolling anxiously through my phone. The detective had said it might take a few hours to locate the car, so I waited, and waited. Finally at 8:42 p.m. my phone rang. Unknown number. My heart jumped. This is Detective Harris, the voice said. We located your vehicle. My breath caught. Where? He hesitated, never a good sign. It was found in a ditch off Maplewood Road. Significant front-end damage. I closed my eyes, swallowing the lump in my throat. Of course he crashed it again. The detective continued. Your brother was at the scene when officers arrived. He admitted he didn't have your permission. He also gave a statement involving your parents. My chest tightened. What kind of statement? There was a rustle of papers. You're going to need to come in tomorrow morning, he said. There's something here you should see, involving both Felix and your parents. It changes the case. Changes how? I asked. His answer came slowly, carefully. You'll understand when you get here. The line went quiet, and everything in my world shifted again. The next morning, I woke up with a strange mix of nerves and clarity. My car was gone, my family was furious, and the police had asked me to come in to see something important. But underneath all that, I felt steady, stronger than I'd ever been, almost as if the version of me who always caved, always apologized, always excused everything, had finally vanished. I arrived at the station around 9 a.m., the lobby strangely quiet for a weekday. Detective Harris greeted me with that same steady expression, but there was something different in his eyes this time, something heavier. Thanks for coming in, Myral. Follow me. He led me down a short hallway into a small viewing room. Inside, a monitor sat on the table, paused on an image of headlights cutting through trees. This is dashcam footage from the responding officers, he explained. I think you should see it. He pressed play. The video started with flashing lights bouncing across a wooded area. The camera approached the ditch, and there it was, my Camry wedged sideways in mud, the hood crumpled like paper. I inhaled sharply, but I didn't cry. I just stared. Then Felix appeared on screen, pacing, frantic, waving his arms. You don't get it, he yelled at the officers. My parents said I could take it. They said she'd get over it. They said she never fights back. My stomach twisted. Detective Harris paused the video. That's the first part. There's more. He pressed play again. The officers asked, who gave you permission to take the vehicle? And Felix answered clear as day. My parents did. They told me it was basically mine anyway. They said Myral would shut up eventually, she always does. The words hit harder than I expected. Always does. That was how they saw me. A doormat. A background character in their lives. The person they could walk over because she'd always get up quietly. Detective Harris pressed pause again. He looked at me, his expression firm but sympathetic. This footage is crucial, he said. Under the law, only the owner can authorize the use of a vehicle. Since you didn't, this becomes a criminal matter. I nodded slowly. I understand. There's more. Your parents, they implicated themselves. He handed me a printed statement. My mother's handwriting. And my father's signature. They admitted brazenly, almost proudly, that they gave permission for Felix to use my vehicle because family comes first. Detective Harris folded his hands. They essentially confessed to participating in unauthorized access of your property. I felt something breaking inside me, not pain, not grief, just the last strands of illusion. Any lingering hope that maybe, deep down, my parents cared as much for me as they did for Felix. What happens now? I asked softly. That depends entirely on you, he said. If you press charges, it goes forward. If you decline, the case ends. I didn't speak right away. I stared at the frozen image of Felix stumbling around the wrecked car. I thought of the nights I drove home exhausted after double shifts, the months I sacrificed to make payments, the pride I felt holding the final payoff notice, the mockery in my parents' voices, their dismissal of my value, their laughter when they took something I earned. And then I thought of how I felt when I dialed 911 yesterday, clear, strong, awake. I looked up at Detective Harris. I want to press charges. He nodded once, serious, respectful. We'll move forward. The legal process moved quickly after that. Felix was charged with unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, reckless driving, and property damage. His license was suspended. His job already hanging by a thread because he was always late let him go within a week. My parents were issued a formal warning and ordered to participate in restitution. They tried to fight it, but the paperwork Felix signed, admitting they encouraged him, locked them in. Insurance refused to cover the damages because he wasn't an authorized driver, meaning, every cent of the totaled value of the car fell on them. I didn't gloat. I didn't brag. I didn't even argue. I simply watched the consequences they built with their own hands finally land where they belonged. For years I'd been their safety net, their fixer, their shield. Not anymore. A month later, I walked into a dealership not with guilt or hesitation, but with certainty. A saleswoman approached me. Looking for anything specific? I smiled. Yes, I said. Something brand new. Good safety features. And definitely not a hand-me-down. She laughed and showed me several options. I left that day driving a car better than my Camry. Newer, shinier, safer. Completely, unquestionably, mine. Paid for with an insurance payout my parents couldn't access, plus the restitution payments Felix was now legally required to make. My parents tried calling again, not to apologize, of course not, but to bargain, to justify, to minimize, to pretend we were all equally at fault. I didn't yell. I didn't insult them. I didn't waste words. I simply said, I won't let you treat me like I don't matter anymore. And then, I blocked their numbers. Not out of spite, out of peace. Life became quieter, simpler, lighter. I got to work on time every day with my own keys in my own hand, unlocking a car that symbolized something bigger than transportation. Freedom, self-respect, finally choosing myself. And I realized something profound. The fallout wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about punishing them. It was about reclaiming the parts of me they kept trying to erase. The responsible daughter, the hardworking woman, the person who deserved respect, me. As I pulled into my apartment complex one evening, the sun low and warm above the rooftops, I turned off the engine and sat there for a moment, quiet, steady, content. My parents had always said family comes first. But for the first time in my life, I finally understood what that truly meant. I had to put myself first. And that was beautiful.